And these images, I mean, they made me gag. The pictures are of the father. He is wearing makeup, he's wearing a wig and a red bra, and he is eating what is human feces out of a diaper. Yeah, you heard me right. Lori, the older
You already know
brother,
what it is. It's your boy Laid Back with another reaction, another review, another episode. Hey, TikTok, you up to bat. Bah! It's your boy Laid Back. Welcome back to my channel. Hey, two things we gotta do. You gotta hit that subscribe button. I'm drinking this water. You already know what it is, man. You are the prize in 2025. You are the prize in 2025. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the notification bell. Stay up to date with all the videos. We back with another reaction. Hey, this is for the true crime conspiracy. This is gonna be interesting. So you make it to the end of this one, you a real one for real. Don't forget, also, I got a TikTok playlist you can go through, binge watch. It's a lot in there. This is gonna be interesting though. Let's go ahead and get into it. Fire Squad, what's popping? Let's get it.
This is one case that still haunts me. The story of the disappearance of Jason Jolkowski is one of the weirdest things that you'll ever read about. And it's haunting because to this day, this mystery has never been solved. So let's take a look at it. So this is Jason Jolkowski. He was born in 1981 and lived in Omaha, Nebraska all his life. And this story takes place in 2001. So on Wednesday, June 13th, 2001, Jason was called into work early. So initially, Jason planned on walking to his job, which was 4 miles away, due to the fact that his car was in a repair shop that day. But he eventually made plans for a friend to meet him at a high school that was nearby. So this high school, Benson High School in Omaha, Nebraska, was only half a mile from Jason's house. Literally an 8-block walk, and that's where his friend was supposed to meet him. So just take a look at this photo. This is the exact route that Jason was going to take to the high school. It's only a 10-minute walk, and keep in mind, he was about to make this walk in the middle of the morning in broad daylight. In a city like Omaha, Nebraska, where crimes like disappearances and murders don't really happen all that frequently. So at 10:45 a.m. that morning, a neighbor saw Jason helping his younger brother with the trash outside of his home. And at some point right after that, he left to go on this walk to go meet his friend. And during this walk, Jason vanished off the face of the earth.
Whoa.
So to this day, no trace of Jason has ever been found. There were no remains ever recovered. Nobody has seen anybody that's ever looked like Jason. Nobody reported seeing somebody being abducted on the day that he went missing. Nobody even reported seeing anything out of the ordinary. It's as if he simply vanished literally into thin air.
Crazy.
They even checked the security camera footage from the school that he was supposed to be walking to that day. And the security camera videos showed that Jason never arrived. It was somewhere on that half-a-mile walk when he vanished. Now, Jason's parents have suggested that they believe he may have been abducted and killed, but with no body ever having been found, that theory is just really hard to prove.
Jeez.
And yeah, it's been over 20 years since this happened, and no trace of Jason has ever been found. That's why it's a case that will haunt me. I mean, it's just scary to think that you can be making a half-a-mile walk in the middle of the day, in the middle of your city, and go missing, and no one will ever even find a piece of your clothing.
Do your own research. I gotta say that.
What the f did I just watch? I don't think I will ever recover from this documentary. In 2011, Cleveland police discovered 11 decomposing bodies, the property of Anthony Sowell. Aside from the evil human being that this documentary is about, there are multiple jaw-dropping moments from the community. If you love documentaries, make sure to hit follow because I post daily and you'll never have to search for something to watch. Anthony targeted women on the margins of society, and a lot of his crimes went unnoticed because when the survivors reported him, they didn't listen. People in the neighborhood even complained about the smell, and the city spent thousands of dollars fixing the sewage, which wasn't even broken. The smell was from the bodies. A neighbor even caught a woman falling out of the second floor window from his security footage, and nothing happened. The survivors are interviewed in this documentary, and one of them has one of the most horrific testimonies I've ever seen. Not to mention, the convenience store worker from across the street in this documentary says he wishes there was 1 million more Anthony Sowells because he was cleaning up the neighborhood. Everything about this is appalling. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments.
He had 11 bodies in the
The killer that inspired hundreds of horror movies. Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs, Norman Bates from Psycho, Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and many more were all inspired by this freak, Ed Gein. Disclaimer, this is not the video that you're going to want to be eating while watching. Ed Gein was from the tiny town of Plainsfield, Wisconsin. His father, George, was an abusive alcoholic, and his mother, Augusta, hated her husband. Well, actually, she kind of hated everybody. She was a very religious woman with a strict moral code. She thought the entire world was evil and sinful, but especially women. She believed that all women were promiscuous S-workers who were instruments of the devil, except herself, of course. She thought that she was the only pure woman in the entire world. And she instilled all of these beliefs on her two sons, Henry and Ed. Augusta was like the blueprint for toxic boy moms. She wanted her sons to stay with her forever, be her little mama's boys, have no friends, and definitely no girlfriends. And it worked because Ed was obsessed with his mother, even calling her the one true love of his life. And when his father passed away in 1940, him and his mom got even closer. But Ed's brother, Henry, did not feel the same way about his mother that his younger brother did. He wanted to grow up, move out, have friends, have a wife. And he began to actually talk badly about their mother to Ed, which Ed did not like at all. And very soon after this, Ed's brother mysteriously passed away in a suspicious fire. There was a lot of shady details, and Ed was the last person to be seen with his brother. It was not ruled foul play in 1944, and to this day it's still speculated if he killed his brother, if he did not kill his brother. I definitely think he did. I think that his brother was his first victim. And only a year later, Ed's mother also passed away, and then everything changed. This was absolutely devastated for the now 39-year-old Ed. He kept his mother's bedroom in his house in pristine condition while allowing the rest of the house to get filthy and disgusting. Ed lived in this very small town where everyone knew each other and everyone thought that Ed was kind of a weirdo. He definitely gave people, especially women, the creeps, but he especially creeped out the local tavern owner, a woman named Mary Hogan. Allegedly, this lady, Mary, was similar to Ed's mother in both attitude and physical appearance. Ed would go to her tavern almost every single day to just sit there and stare at her until she went missing. Mary was actually one of 5 people to disappear in a handful of years from this very small town. Considering that the population of the town was less than 700 people, it's kind of weird. That's a lot of people to be disappearing. And in November of 1957, a 6th person would disappear. She was the owner of the local hardware store, this woman named Bernice Warden. Luckily, they were actually able to determine who her last customer was at the hardware store before she disappeared, and you guessed it, it was Ed. So officers want to question Ed, see if he saw anything, see if he knows anything. So they go to his property, which is now referred to as Ed Gein's House of Horrors. Officers are walking through Ed's property trying to find him. He might not be there, but they're walking through, and then one of the officers feels something hit his shoulder. So he looks up, and there, hanging from the ceiling, upside down by her feet, was Bernice. And this was a gruesome sight. She was missing her head and also all of her insides. Immediately, all of the officers went outside to throw up and call backup. Also inside of Ed's house was a lot of stuff that he had made out of skin and not from an animal. He made furniture like chairs and the lampshades. He made clothing like shirts, leggings, corsets, gloves, all made from human skin. There was also a mask made out of a face, and there was also a belt completely made out of a specific female body part. Also, an entire wall in his house that he had lined with 9 female faces that he put up as decoration. They also found the face of the missing tavern owner, Mary, inside of a plastic bag. And you can find photos of all of the things and more that I just told you about online. I'm not your mom. I'm not going to tell you what to do, what not to look up. I'm just going to tell you, remember that you can never unsee something. So you're probably thinking that this man is obviously a serial killer and one of the most disturbing, terrifying of them all. Technically, he's not. Ed only ever confessed to unaliving Mary and Bernice, and all of the other bodies in his house he got from robbing graves. He claims in the 12 years since his mother had passed away, he could not believe that she was gone. He thought that she was still alive, so he began finding graves of women that were around the same age or kind of looked like his mom that had recently passed away, so he could use their bodies to make a full skin suit out of them. And apparently he would even go out at night in this suit so he could feel like his mom walking around in the moonlight. And then he would dance in this skin suit. Could you imagine like going out to walk your dog and seeing that? It's nightmare fuel. He claims that he only began to unalive people so that he could get the freshest material for the things that he was making. It's so gross. I'm going to be sick. Ed Gein spent the rest of his life in a psychiatric hospital before passing away in 1984. Ed went on to inspire like a majority of like the classic horror movies, and then those movies inspired the next generation of horror movies and so on and so forth. So if you're a fan of horror movies and like the horror movie genre, chances are that your favorite movies only exists because of this guy, Ed Gein. If you watched to the end of this video, thank you so much, because I know this was a rough one to get through. I'm right there with you. Recently, I asked you guys, because you guys are always asking me to cover some of the more like notorious, well-known killers throughout history, because I tend to try and like cover a lot of cases that people don't really know. So that's how I ended up covering this case today. If there's a case that you want to see me cover, let me know in the comments. I will see you guys tomorrow. I love you guys so, so much.
That stuff is ridiculously crazy.
Just when I thought I heard about all the worst cults in history, this one had to come and blow them out of the water. This is Colonia Dignidad. They were a German torture cult hiding out in the Chilean wilderness after World War II, aka Yahtzees. And to show you how terrible they were, let me tell you a story. Now, as a quick reminder, if you want more info, you can check out the podcast. The leader of this cult was a known child abuser, and he wanted more Chilean boys to be brought to him. So he started a hospital in the community and used it as a trafficking system to get more children. One day, a young Chilean boy choked and was rushed to the hospital. And right when he got there, a nurse scooped him up, brought him to a room, and saved his life. But later that day, his sister arrived and asked a nurse when she could pick him up to take him home. And the nurse responded that they needed to monitor him for a few more days, which is pretty suspect in a choking case. So a few days later, she comes back and she's like, okay, can I get my brother? And the nurse tells her that he's not there anymore. And this is because the hospital had lawyers on staff that were drafting up adoption paperwork when young boys would come in. The cult was able to legally adopt boys in the community without the parents' consent, and the parents had not enough money to do anything about it. There are so many more stories about this place, and I had never heard of it before, so make sure you check out this week's episode for more info.
What? Just take the kid legally?
This story is chilling not only because it features a brutal murder, but because of the extreme lengths that one of the alleged killers went to after the killing. On June 27th, 1977, at around 7 a.m., a nurse named Mildred Garva pulled up to the famous Glen Sheen mansion in Duluth, Minnesota. An elderly woman, Elizabeth Congdon, lived there. Elizabeth needed constant care, which is why our nurse Mildred is there. So Mildred stepped onto the grand staircase, but midway up, she sees another sign that something might not be right. The night nurse, Velma Piedila, was lying on a window seat on the landing. She notices that Velma was covered in blood, and there were injuries all over her body. It looked like someone had literally beaten her. It didn't take Mildred long to confirm that Velma, the fill-in night shift nurse, was dead. If someone had hurt Velma during the night, they probably had made it to Elizabeth too. The elderly woman was in her bed with a bloody pillow over her face. The intruder had obviously suffocated her. So from there, the homicide investigation is underway. Right away, the police determined that Elizabeth didn't really have any enemies. This left one other motive for the people to consider, and that is obviously money. Elizabeth was the daughter of a wealthy miner. So she so she actually inherited this entire fortune. She was said to be worth about $8 million. Okay, so 8 million, 1970s, retired, elderly woman. Police are like, okay, the jewelry box has obviously been raided, and so they're thinking this is a robbery gone wrong. Someone came in, killed the night nurse, and killed her and stole some money.
That's it?
So how well do you know your spouse? This story might scare you. In July 2016, Amy Allwine of Cottage Grove, Minnesota, began to check her emails. One email stood out in particular. It was from an email account, janesomething@gmail.com. The letter started off with, "Here is how you can save your family and your life. If you do not, then you will slowly see things taken away from you." Amy freaked out. This was actually the second email that she received threatening her. The lady Jane was accusing her of sleeping with her husband. Amy was racking her brain trying to figure out who this Jane was. Amy was struck with fear, but not only because of those two emails, but because just a couple months prior to this incident, the FBI showed up at her doorstep. It turned out that early 2016, the FBI was notified by hackers that they obtained Amy's name from a hitman for hire website. It turned out that someone had put a hit out on Amy early that year. They told someone on the website where she was going to be at and at what time. They even sent them photos of Amy, and they even transferred $12,000 in Bitcoin for the job. Bitcoin is an electronic currency that is anonymous. The username of the sender was named Dog Day God, but since this website was on the dark web, the FBI had no way of tracing who sent the request. Luckily, it was a fake website used to take people's money without actually completing their request. When that happened, Amy, her husband Steven, who was a preacher, and her young son flew to Germany for a couple of weeks. Amy just had to get away, but not before installing an alarm system in their home, as well as cameras. So Steven made sure that they did that right before they left. He didn't want to take any chances. However, when they came back, the emails started rolling in again. The emails even gave her a list of ways she can end her life. This person was set on ending Amy. They were holding a real grudge. They told her how horrible she was for committing a sin, for committing adultery. Steve and Amy were living in misery. So Steve realized what he had to do. Steve went out and bought Amy a handgun, and he gave it to his wife for protection. However, things got worse for Amy. She then received an email giving her a detailed description of what their son was wearing on a certain day. The person seemed to know everything about Amy and her family. It was horrible. And that was just the beginning of things. On November 13, 2016, after coming back from a father and son outing, Steven and their son walk into their home. Excited to tell his mom about his day, their son ran to his mom's bed. However, her son walked into a very gruesome scene. There, on the floor of her bedroom, was Amy lying with a pool of blood around her. She also had her handgun right next to her. The son cried out for his dad, and Steven came running in. Steven was speechless and called 911 right away. The 911 audio is so sad. You can hear their son crying, asking what happened to his mom. Steven then turns to his son and says, "She shot herself." Their son was devastated and confused. He cried out to his dad, "Why? Why did she shoot herself?" Steven would later go on to explain to their son that she did it for her family so that they wouldn't get hurt. When police walked in, it looked to them that Amy ended her life. However, upon further inspecting, they saw that she was laid out on the floor with her arms out, which was an unusual position for someone who shoots themselves in the head. Also, the position of the gun was on her left hand, but Amy was right-handed. They also discovered that the blood was cleaned up, which usually doesn't happen when someone ends their life. The person doesn't end their life and then clean up their mess. The detectives were able to see the cleaned up blood by using the chemical substance luminol. During the investigation, Steven and his son moved in with Amy's parents. Investigators combed through the home and checked all of the computers and devices, which included their phones. And that was when they discovered something rather disturbing. A computer expert found a Bitcoin address that matched the address that detectives found when they discovered the fake hitman website. They also went on to discover that the user Dog Day God was, in fact, Steven. It turned out that Steven had been trying to buy a drug called scopolamine. The drug usually disorients people and knocks them out. They also revealed through autopsy that Amy had 40 times a regular dosage of that drug in her system. So Amy was most likely unconscious when she was killed. It turned out that Steven ended his wife's life because he wanted to be single again. He was on this website, Ashley Madison, for married people looking for affairs. And since Steven was a deacon in his church, he knew that his church would not allow him to divorce. Therefore, murdering his wife was the only answer. It turned out that Steven rendered Amy unconscious before ending her life with the firearm in the hallway, then dragged her body from the hallway to their bedroom for their 9-year-old son to discover her. Steven was sentenced to life in prison without the chance of parole. Rest in peace, Amy. Condolences to your family.
Man, these people, boy.
I wish I was lying. I just threw up in my mouth a little bit. I've seen this picture circling around social media. I've been tagged in one too many posts. I was tagged again last night by you know who you are. At first glance, I saw the picture. Don't know what's going on in the picture, but I thought it's none of my business. Unfortunately for me, and now probably unfortunately for you, I looked it up. And now we have to talk about it. Dylan Redwine was born in 1999, and that has a little bit of a soft spot for me because I was born in 99, so he would have been my age. But unfortunately, his life was taken at the age of 13 at the hands of his own father in November 2012 in Colorado. Redwine family was made up of the mother Elaine, the dad Mark Redwine, the older brother Corey, and little brother Dylan. Dylan also had 2 half-siblings from the father's previous marriage. Dylan and Corey were really close. They had a really good relationship. Corey was someone that Dylan could look up to. Good role model, but also a good friend. Dylan has been described as a happy boy that loved to play baseball and hang out with his friends. After being together for 18 years, Elaine and Mark, the parents, decide to get a divorce in 2005. The divorce was messy. It was tough not only on the parents but on the kids. Dylan and Corey live with the mom full time. They do visit Mark on occasion because he did have visitation rights. The boys did not have a good relationship with the dad. I think it was because the divorce was so messy and they didn't like the way that Mark was treating their mom. They were far, far away from any sort of fatherly son relationship. In June of 2011, Dylan is 13 at the time, Corey is 18. They go on a road trip with their father Mark. On this trip, Dylan was on his dad's laptop and he found some very disturbing images. Dylan takes the laptop and he sneaks over to the bathroom and signals Corey to go inside. So he goes inside, they lock the door. Dylan is going to show Corey the images that he found. So he does. And these images, I mean, they made me gag. The pictures are of the father. He is wearing makeup, he's wearing a wig and a red bra, and he is eating what is human feces out of a diaper. Yeah. You heard me right. Corey, the older brother, takes out his phone, takes pictures of the laptop, and then the boys
What? What? Come on, man. This is outrageous here. This is
put the laptop back, put everything back, and just go to sleep. Ever since seeing those pictures, that obviously created more distance between the boys and the dad. They were weirded out. They thought it was disgusting and they wanted nothing to do with it. So Dylan is still living with his mom and Corey in Colorado Springs, but November 2012, he has to go stay with his dad for Thanksgiving. It's a court order. He doesn't want to at all, but he kind of has no choice. November 18th, Dylan takes a flight to go see his dad in Durango, Colorado. When he lands, he texts his mom that he's landed with a sad face, and his mom responds that she's really proud of him and says, "I miss you already, but try and have fun." The very next day, November 19th, Elaine is at work. She gets a text from Mark asking if she knows where Dylan is. But Dylan was supposed to be staying with the dad, so why is he asking Elaine? Mark had gone to the police station to let them know that he couldn't find his son. His story was that he arrived the night prior, asked if he could go sleep over at a friend's house. He said no, so Dylan just made plans to go over to his friend's house the next morning. The next morning, Mark had to run errands. Dylan slept in, so Mark just went by himself. Phone records show that Mark was texting and calling Dylan all day. Dylan never responded. Mark says he then returns home, takes a nap, wakes up, and Dylan still isn't home. Elaine is concerned. She immediately packs up the car and makes the drive from Colorado Springs to Durango with Dylan's older brother Corey and her new husband Michael. On the drive there, she texts Dylan and says, "Dylan, please be safe. Mom is here to come and get you." Remember how I said that Mark had been married prior? So the day that Dylan goes missing, the ex-wife calls the police station. She tells them about her relationship with Mark and how he was abusive. She mentions that one time in an argument, he mentioned that he would kill their kids because they had kids together as well. She also mentioned how in a different conversation one time when they were camping, he told her that if he ever needed to hide a body, he would hide it in the mountains. So the ex-wife was somewhat suspicious of Mark, but she wasn't the only one. Cody and Elaine were also very suspicious of Mark. Tensions are high. It's an incredibly high-stress situation, but the main priority remains to find Dylan. Where is Dylan? Corey decides that he He needs to fill the mom in on everything, paint the full picture for her. So he tells her about the pictures that him and Dylan found. He says that a month prior, in the middle of a texting argument between him and his father Mark, he told him that they had seen the pictures. He confronted him, said that Dylan had seen them too. So this now kind of switches the narrative from a child is missing, he probably just ran away, to a child is missing and the last person that saw him could potentially be a very dangerous person. As soon as Elaine, Corey, and Michael get to Durango, they go to the police station and then they start searching for hours throughout the night. On the other hand, Mark is at home sleeping. Throughout the following days, investigators go to Mark's house to speak to him, even though for whatever reason he denied filing an actual report. He wouldn't for some reason. Obviously, he still had to communicate with them because his child is missing and he was the last person that saw him. When they go to his house, immediately his behavior weird, strange, odd. He's not concerned, not alarmed, absolutely has no care in the world. At the house, none of Dylan's belongings are found. Phone charger, backpack, phone, all gone. The only thing that's there that could have a trace of Dylan was the pillowcase that he slept on. Searches have started to form. Mark lived really close to a national park with a lot of mountains, so investigators were doing their best to find anything helpful, but days went by with nothing. By November 29th, authorities have a search warrant, so they go to search Mark's home. 6 pieces of evidence were taken from the house that had a positive reaction to luminol, meaning they had traces of blood. They were all in the living room, most of them, 5 out of the 6 were, on the couch, on the carpet, on the love seat, coffee table, and underneath the rug. February 2013, Mark does an interview where he talks about Dylan. More specifically, he talks about this beautiful relationship that they had. He says they were really close. He specifically said, "We were inseparable. Wherever I was, he was right besides me," which couldn't be farther from the truth. Mark also mentions that because him and Dylan were so close, the mom, Elaine, was very jealous because they had a bond that him and the mom could never have. So that was apparently a big problem to her, which again is a lie. February 26 and 27, Mark goes on the Dr. Phil show. I assume his intentions were to go on to clear his name. However, Elaine and Corey also go on the show. Mark and Elaine were not agreeing on anything. It was pretty obvious that they didn't get along. They were arguing pretty much. Corey flat out says that he thinks that Mark is responsible for his little brother's death. Mark is just holding on to his innocence. June 27th, 2013, on a road near the mountains near where Mark lived, a pair of headphones were found that matched Dylan's, a piece of clothing was found that matched Dylan's, a single shoe, and a sock also found that also matched Dylan's. Then finally, partial human remains were found, tested the DNA, and were able to confirm that those remains were those of Dylan Redwine. November 1st, 2015, almost 3 years later, a hiker in the area is hiking when he runs into a human skull around 1.5 miles away from where the other human remains were found. That skull was confirmed to be Dylan's as well, and the skull had very visible blunt force trauma. Above the left eye, there was a fracture that was a little bit over 4 inches long. The cause of death was officially changed from undetermined to a homicide. And also, finally, Mark is officially named a person of interest. July 22nd, 2017, Mark is arrested in connection to Dylan's death and given a $1 million cash bond. He is charged with suspicion of second-degree murder and child assaulting and death. The indictment stated that his motive were those pictures, that Dylan had seen the pictures, he was planning on confronting his father about him, and that ended in a violent response for Mark that ended in Dylan's death. The trial kept getting pushed back. It was actually rescheduled 10 times. June 21st, 2001, the trial began. Mark pled not guilty. His defense was saying that Dylan ran away and that he was killed by an animal in the wildlife, which is honestly silly. What prosecutors believed happened was that Mark killed Dylan in his living room, decapitated him, and then got rid of his remains in the woods. They brought up the blood in the living room. They also mentioned how cadaver dogs had picked up the scent of human remains on Mark's clothing in the back of his car in the trunk, as well as in the living room. Elaine testified, Corey testified. Those were very sad and hard to watch. Corey talked about the day that they found the pictures, and he said that that day Dylan lost any reason to look up to Mark. July 16th, 2021, Mark Redwine was found guilty of second-degree murder and child. He was sentenced to 48 years in prison. Yeah. I don't know what it was about this one. I mean, obviously it's a very disgusting and disturbing case, but I was feeling nauseous the whole time. It's disgusting. It's sad. It should have never happened. To the girl that tagged me in the picture yesterday, now you know what happened. Anyway, thank you all so much for spending time with me today and answering our FaceTime call. I love you so much. Massive kiss on the forehead to every single one of you. Have the best day ever.
These stories are crazy.
One day I get a phone call and they said, Sandy, we found your granddaughter, but we're not sure which one. And I said, Bella's a little taller. She's pretty slimmer. She don't get a little belly. And if you pull her hair up a little bit, because I do their hair, and it'll be so long, you know. And then I realized all the oil, they would never know. So they said, who's the one that wears a pull-up? And I said, that would be Cece. They said, well, then we have Cece. And I said, well, keep going. I said, find my Bella. And 2 hours later, they did.
It was 2 hours later that they said they had found
she was
Bella.
at the bottom of the drum. And their skin was falling off as they were trying to get them out. Whoa. Everybody needed so much therapy after that. Our hearts just go out to all of them.
Man, this stuff is sad, bro.
There are many cases of people getting kidnapped every year who are never found. So what happens when the police are actually able to find them? Here are 3 times when kidnapped people realized that they've been found and saved. Starting with when 10 kidnapped underage girls were found inside a trailer. In 2022, officers were called in after a witness told police he saw human fingers poking out of a man's trailer at a traffic stop. Once officers arrived and asked about it, the driver was extremely hesitant to explain any further with them.
We're out here because there is supposed to be people back there.
How many other people in the truck?
He ain't even saying that.
How many other people are in the truck?
Any information I give can and will be held against you.
Well, I just want to know who's inside the truck right now, so that way I know who else we're dealing with here. Or else I'm going to call everybody out.
As you can see, it's a pretty serious deal here, sir.
He is messed up. Look at him.
What is your name?
He can't believe it.
Samuel what?
He can't believe it.
Do I have to tell you my name? I'm asking for your name. I don't have to tell you, right? Sir. Yes, sir. What is your name?
Fucked up.
Samuel. Samuel what?
Is he the driver?
Yeah.
Okay, you have to identify yourself. You understand that, right?
I don't know. I just wondering. Yeah, Samuel Bateman. Samuel Bateman? I don't understand. What are you doing? We're trying to make sure people...
I just got here. Explain to me what's going on.
Calm down.
Whoa.
You're being videoed. Just in case you're... Yeah, that's fine.
You're being videoed as well. Yeah. Okay.
He said calm down.
Stuff?
The individual who was driving the trailer is named Samuel Bateman, and the reason why he was so hesitant to say his name is because he's actually a polygamous cult leader, which means he's married to more than one spouse with a total of 20 wives he's married to. This is going to be very important later on, but for now, officers decide to open up his trailer, and what they found inside was horrifying.
Pull down the handle.
20 wives?
Where are the hands? Let's see the hands.
Let's get that other door open.
There's hands sticking out of the top of the trailer.
Okay. There's a curtain.
There's hands sticking out of the top of the trailer earlier. Let's see them. Let's see your hands. They're in the front.
Behind the curtain.
Okay. Keep your hands up for me. Go and walk out towards me, okay? Try not to slip, all right?
The cops find multiple girls inside the trailer, and
That's it?
This new documentary is one of the most unsettling things I've seen in a long time. So it's called Tell Them You Love Me, and it's about this woman, Anna Stubblefield, who claimed she had a consensual relationship with her nonverbal disabled student, Derek. It's a devastating documentary, so watch the rest of this video at your own discretion.
What?
Derek Johnson was born with cerebral palsy and has been nonverbal his entire life. So his brother, who is amazing by the way, finds Anna, who's a professor that claims she can get Derek to speak through a technique called facilitated communication. Facilitated communication is when an aide helps someone with typically autism or a physical disability say what they need to say by using a keyboard. So Anna and Derek start working together, and as they do, Anna realizes not only can Derek communicate, but he is in love with her. And so the two start a relationship despite the fact that Anna is married. And in 2011, they tell Derek's family that they're in love, they've slept together, and they want to move in together, which would be okay until we learn that Anna was most likely typing those messages from Derek subconsciously, and Derek probably didn't know what was going on. And that's because facilitated facilitated communication is nearly completely debunked. A study was done where a facilitator like Anna was shown one image and then their student was shown a separate image. And what was learned was the student would always write down the image that the facilitator saw. And researchers felt like this proved that it was just the facilitator moving the hand of their student, which means Anna was most likely writing those messages to herself, whether she knew it or not. There's obviously a lot more to this story, so I recommend watching the documentary if you can. And you don't have to look very far to find other disability activists who say that this is dangerous.
What is going on in the world, man?
Why did you choose Jamie, your friend?
He was the easiest out of anybody because he would have followed me because we're such good friends. And I knew he would have followed me in there and done what I would have said.
Okay. Now, I asked you about an individual named Andre Martin.
Yes.
Do you know Andre?
Yes, I do.
How old is Andre?
He is 13.
What grade is Andre in?
He's in 8th grade.
Is he a friend of yours?
Yes, he is.
Is he in any of your classes?
No, he's not.
And how long have you known Andre?
I have known him since about the 4th or 5th grade.
And I know you told me earlier that usually you and Andre and Jamie hang out.
Yes,
at
the parking lot.
Yes, at the fence, correct. Calling your attention to yesterday, Monday, your birthday.
My birthday.
Did there come a time when you approached Andre with the same type of ruse?
Yeah, yes, there was. Me, Andre, Jamie, and myself were in the bathroom.
Which bathroom?
We were in the other bathroom than where the victim was found today.
Referring to Jaime as the victim may be evidence of how detached Michael feels from someone who was supposedly his friend. He may be unable to or have difficulties with forming real emotional attachments to other people. This phrasing could be another indication of psychopathy, as it shows Michael has a lack of prosocial emotions. Empathy and emotional attachment are considered prosocial emotions, which are things psychopaths struggle with feeling. This is why they often present as emotionally detached, distant, and indifferent, because they're apathetic to society and to people and situations in general. The fact that psychopaths are emotionally detached helps them to stay calm in situations that would cause the average person to feel afraid or nervous, such as in an interrogation or the act of committing murder.
What were your intentions yesterday?
My intentions yesterday were to kill Andre. The same way that I killed Jamie today.
What?
Thanks to a deathbed confession, a nearly 24-year-old cold case was closed this week when the bodies of a missing girl and her mother were found. 10-year-old Natasha Alex Carter and her mother Susan disappeared from their home in Beckley, West Virginia in August 2000. But at first, police initially reported that Alex may have been abducted by her mother. In a press release from December 2021 about the case, the FBI Pittsburgh said, quote, "At the time of their disappearance, Susan Carter and Alex's father were having a custody dispute, and Alex moved in with her mother and mother's new husband," which it's not confirmed that it was actually her mother's new husband, but they moved in, and then not long after that, Susan and Alex disappeared. But while it was initially suspected as a parental abduction by Susan, after the two remained missing, an investigation into other possibilities ensued, but unfortunately, the case went cold. In 2021, the FBI reopened the cold case and started looking into the man Susan and Alex were living with, Larry Webb. Searches of his home were done in 2022 and 2023, and they found a bullet embedded in the wall of what was Alex's bedroom. The bullet was tested for DNA, and it confirmed that blood on it belonged to Alex. In October 2023, Larry Webb was indicted on first-degree murder charges for Alex's death, despite Alex and Susan's bodies never being found. Due to his deteriorating health, though, Webb was not arrested until April 12, 2024, but since then, he was being held without bond. On Monday, he had a medical episode, after which, in a, quote, come to Jesus moment on his deathbed, he confessed to authorities what he had done. Webb claimed that on August 8th, 2000, he had gotten into an argument with Susan over money. He said he was missing some cash and believed that she had taken it and spent it. The argument escalated and he shot her, and then he ended up shooting Alex so there would be no witnesses. Webb then wrapped their bodies in bed linens and placed them in the basement that night. Over the next 2 nights, he dug a shallow grave in the woods on his property, eventually burying them in his clothes and then walking free for the next 20 years. Whoa. On April 22nd, 2024, Larry Webb died at Mount Olive Correctional Complex, and 6 hours later, Susan and Alex's remains were found at his property in Beckley. Unfortunately, now that Webb is dead, he cannot be charged in connection to their deaths. At least now they have been found and can be properly laid to rest. Alex's father, Rick Lafferty, said after the discovery, quote, "It's kind of a sad day, but also a happy day because I can bring my baby home." Rest in peace, Alex and Susan.
Whoa. All right, so that was a true crime compilation. That was crazy, man. This stuff is crazy, man. Prayers to everybody involved in these things, in these situations, in these cases. Take care of yourself. You made it this far, you a real one for real, man. This stuff here is crazy. But hey, till next time, self-love and positivity. Fire Squad, I got you and you know it.